close. Meryl Streep stars as Washington Post publisher Kay Graham and Tom Hanks' editor Ben Bradlee in the Post, director Steven Spielberg's drama about the Pentagon Papers. Fox Washington. Had Steven Spielberg never slid himself into a director's chair, he thinks a reporter's hat would have fit well. Look, your job is cool, says the acclaimed filmmaker, perhaps forgetting for a second he's the man who gave us Indiana Jones, E.T. and one very iconic Hungry Shark. Of course, I've always said in my next career I would want to be a film composer, and just after that if I weren't a director, I probably would have been a journalist. In his new drama The Post in New York, LA, and DC theaters Friday, nationwide Jan. 12, Spielberg tackles the newsroom of The Washington Post and the public 1971 tussle with Richard Nixon's White House to print the Pentagon Papers and reveal a massive cover-up about involvement in the Vietnam War. Review. Steven Spielberg's The Post dazzles with terrific cast, journalistic but more comic, and watch the geeky first trailer for Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One. It was Post publisher Katharine Graham, Meryl Streep, her working relationship with editor Ben Bradlee, Tom Hanks, and the hard decision she had to make to publish, not to publish, that attracted Spielberg. The timeliness also helped, with a current news cycle that was very evocative of the Nixon administration and their attempts to suppress the truth through the judicial system. Spielberg, 71, says, "The great revelation that put all of us who made this movie in complete solidarity was the fact that sometimes history is best viewed through a lens, and there was a huge reflecting mirror that could take the date 71 and flip it to 17. Washington Post editor Ben Bradlee, Tom Hanks, and publisher Katharine Graham, Meryl Streep go to court in the Post. Photo. Nico Tavernizer. Spielberg is also currently readying his retro fantasy Ready Player One, out March 30th, and eyeing a new version of the classic musical West Side Story. It would still take place in 1957, and it would still be about the Sharks and the Jets, he promises. USA Today talks with the Oscar-winning director about The Post. Trump and seeking out the truth. You've made a career out of heroes you've put on screen. Is that the label you'd give Graham, Bradlee, and the Post journalists? I see them as hard-working heroes. You can't be a hero unless you're bucking a system, and they had a huge system to buck called the Nixon administration. H.R. Haldeman, John Ehrlichman, and John Mitchell, they were all at the throats of the New York Times and the Washington Post. The great thing is, no matter what administration comes and goes, journalism is here to stay. The Post ties into Watergate a little bit at the end. Would you like to continue this story and do your own version of All the President's Men? No, because my story ends where Alan Pakula's story begins. Except for Katharine Graham's very noticeable absence in All the President's Men, I feel that movie is a perfect film. Meryl's role rings true now, especially with women speaking out about sexual harassment and standing up for themselves in every way. Exactly. She stood up for herself. The most amazing thing Katharine Graham brought into her world of publishing and high society, and what Meryl Streep brought to the way she played Kay, is a tremendous amount of vulnerability, but also in the lowest moments of Kay Graham's life, there's great dignity. Tom Hanks, far left, and director Steven Spielberg work out a scene alongside Meryl Streep and Tracy Letts on the set of The Post. Photo. Nico Tavernizer. What do you worry about the most with today's politics and society? With all the engineered disinformation and calculated smear tactics in trying to subvert the truth into a lie, I worry that young people will have to work harder to decide for themselves what is true and what is not. There are so many sources of information today, it's confusing. If you look at how polarized the media is between media that feels almost state-sponsored and other media that feels and is free, it depends on your ideology and where you stand. Do you stand in the center of the abyss between the blue and the red, or do you have a more objective, patient look at reporting today? Do you see similarities between Nixon's and Trump's administrations in terms of the media? When Nixon in the movie says, "Well, the New York Times, they're our enemy, I think we should do it," meaning, I think we should get John Mitchell to take them to court and stop them from printing, it was a horrible impulse to suppress the truth because they weren't pleased by the truth. But at the same time, it was organized and it was legal. Today, there just seems to be a tremendous amount of scattershot in trying to create layers and layers and layers of confusion. And it's the confusion I worry about. It was a lot in more black and white in 1971 than it is today. Reader, share this story. https://usa.li2bha94